Okay, hello YouTube. Today we're going to keep covering the Pirc defense after e4, d6. We're going to be taking a look at d4, knight f6, knight c3, and we're just going to be covering some early deviations here from black and how we should try to handle those as white. So if you like content like this and you want to see more of it, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click on your notification icon. Now, one of the difficulties in preparing the white side of the Pirc, and I've mentioned this before, and I'm just going to mention it again, is just the number of options that are available for black to play like so many different types of setups. One of the things about this opening is since he's not taking his fair share of space, that's certainly a disadvantage. White has more space. That's usually a good thing. But at the same time, he has an enormous amount of flexibility on how he can develop his pawns, where he can put his pieces, and there's just so many setups, and they don't all transpose back into the exact same setup, and there's just so many different things that you have to prepare for, and it makes it actually very difficult to prepare. One thing that can kind of simplify it is to just understand your basic principles about how to handle the middle of the board, and then try to fall back on those basic principles when you're confronted with something relatively new. So one common move that gets played here to really take people out of their book is a move like e5. Now, certainly, there's some very complex lines that are supposed to be okay for white, starting with d takes e5, d takes e5, and, possibly queen d8. But these lines are also supposed to be okay for black. I mean, these are probably slight advantage white if everything is played correctly, but, it's a system that you have to be somewhat familiar with. So if somebody plays e5, in my mind, like the simplest reply is simply to play a move like knight f3, and then we're not having to add anything additional to our opening preparation. We're just saying, okay, well, you could have started with e5, and we could have played a Philidor. So let's just go ahead and play a Philidor. And now you're just going to be playing a mainline Philidor, and this should be a position that's well within your repertoire within the mainline Philidor. This is nothing crazy and nothing special. They're going to be following this up with either knight to c6 or knight d7 on the next move, and you're going to be right back in the main line. So that's kind of my advice for handling some of these weird ideas. Now, of course, there's other weird ideas that people will throw at you. The main ones that I see are things like early queenside expansions or early queen sorties. So something like, let's say, c6 with the idea of simply bringing this queen out. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to play something like, let's go into our Austrian. Let's play f4. Now, f4 is a highly principled move in the sense that I'm just preparing to play this e5, and I'm going to be cutting the board in half, and if I manage to do that, I can simply declare that white has an advantage in this position. Now, at this point, some of the most common tries that I see people go for are they try to play like maybe an early queen sortie. They try something like queen a5. Which, makes a pin and puts pressure on e4, so we have to defend e4, so fine. So bishop d3, and then we're going to have something like e5, and then we're going to have something like, say, knight f3. We're going to have bishop to g4. We're going to have bishop e3, just holding our center together. Just playing very principled moves. There's no reason that our position should be bad, so there's no reason to think that our position is bad if we just continue to develop our pieces. So knight on b to d7, castle's kingside, bishop e7. We have h3, bishop h5, queen e1. Note that if you do play g4, you're not actually trapping the bishop with g4 and f5 because they are going to play e captures f4 in between, which is a move that they're probably going to play anyway. So something like queen e1, bishop f4, gf4, bishop f4. And we're actually following a game between Anand and Manamajarov, which was played in Dubai in 2014. And Anand just has a better position here. And actually, it's just a much better position just classically. Like, when we teach beginners, like, what is your ideal structure, we show them something like this. And we say, this is your ideal structure. And if you get to something like this, especially with an open F file and everything else, you should have an advantage. So if you've managed to navigate the first 11 moves of the game, and this is the result, you can simply declare that your position is better. And of course, Anand did go on to win this game against Mamjarov after, another 30 moves. So, I mean, it was a long game, but clearly white is better here. So that's kind of the main thing is, if you follow basic principles, normally you're going to be okay in these positions if you just use some common sense. Another early queen sortie is something like queen b6. Well, in this case, our main goal is to play a move like e5 and cut the board in half, and with the queen no longer on the d8 square, if we play e5, there's not going to be some exchange of queens that's going to take place on d1, which would give us maybe a little bit of pause to playing e5. That's one of the reasons a lot of times it gets prefaced with bishop d3, even if there's no pressure directly on the e4 square. But in this case, what's stopping us? Why wouldn't we just play e5 here? I mean, this is just a really simple question. And, I mean, this was essentially the move that was played by Kaidanov in Connecticut back in 2003, okay? And it's a good move. I mean, we're cutting the board in half. You know, we play e5, they play knight d5, knight d5, c d5, bishop d3. Why not just follow basic principles? What exactly is wrong with our position? g6, c3, bishop g7, we can play queen f3, bishop e6, knight e2, queen g3, bishop f8, castles kingside. I mean, what are we doing here as black? What is black doing? I don't understand. I don't understand what is black doing. I mean, this is how principled white's position is. After queen g3, black didn't know how to meet the threat of f5 trapping his bishop, and he had to simply retreat his bishop to f8. That's because white's position is just very principled and black's position isn't. You know, black's position is awkward, his development is awkward, his piece placement is awkward. The only thing he's really done is put his queen on b6 and put some pressure on b2 and prevented you from developing this bishop for a little while, which you probably weren't going to develop for a little while anyway. So these positions are really just, you know, slight advantage white. And just positions in general where people are going to try goofy stuff against your setup, whether that setup be the Austrian attack or whether that setup is the 150 attack with f3. If you just, you know, keep your center together or keep your space, or just follow basic principles in general, you're going to be okay. So one more example is after f4, they could try like an early bishop g4. And again, there shouldn't be any problems with this position. We could just play knight f3, just develop, and then queen b6. And yeah, this looks like a problem. It looks like they're putting pressure here, and it looks like they're threatening to take, in which case you would have to take back with the pawn, which isn't actually something you should even be afraid of, but let's just pretend like we are. How do we handle this and follow basic principles? So stop and pause the video and tell me if you can find the move. So that move is just bishop e2. This is a really simple move. We have plenty of stuff defending everything. All we're doing is breaking our pin. Yeah, there's pressure here and there's pressure here, but we have one defender and we have one defender. And there's not enough pressure on either of those squares for anybody to win anything. We just broke the pin, which means we're threatening e5, which means that black is kind of obligated to do something here. So really, black needs to play bishop f3, and then pawn to e5 himself, simply to prevent us from playing e5. Now, once he does that, what's the logical move here to defend everything? Stop and pause the video and see if you can find it. And that move is actually knight e2. We can't defend with the move bishop e3 because there is a pawn hanging on b2. So black is creating this very temporary, awkward problem. And we can't play bishop e3. But knight e2 works fine. And after we play knight e2, we can just hold everything together, no problem. We're going to have knight on b to d7, castles kingside. We're going to have h5, king h1, breaking that pin on d4. And then simply b3, and we finish our development with bishop to b2. And everything is held, and white has an advantage. White has a clear advantage. You know, ed4, bishop b2, we can even take with the bishop. And white's doing great in the center of the board, and white has a spectacular position. There are countless kind of approaches to do this type of thing in the early Pirc and in the early modern. And other than a couple of the main lines, you know, where people, you know, expand on the queenside early, which I've gone over in my modern video, and a couple of main lines in the Pirc, we don't need to have preparation against all of this stuff. We just need to know that it's very difficult for black to collapse white's center with no development. So as long as you just make principled and reasonable moves within these positions, you're going to be okay. So anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you learned something new about chess, and thank you very much for watching.